Om Jnanatimrandasya Jnanjana Shalakaya Sakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namini Namaste Saraswata Devi Gauravani Pacharani Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paskachani Desatarani. Srila Prabhupada Ki. So good morning. This morning we will continue discussing the guru-disciple relationship. So we continue where we left off last time. Everyone is born a rascal and a fool. If we are born learned, why do we need to go to school? If we do not cultivate knowledge, we are no better than animals. An animal may said that there is no need of books and that he has become a guru, but how can anyone obtain knowledge without the study of the authoritative books on science and philosophy? Rascal gurus try to avoid these things, but we must understand that we are all born rascals and fools, and that we have to be enlightened. We have to receive knowledge to make our lives perfect. If we do not perfect our lives, we are defeated. What is this defeat? The struggle for existence. We are trying to obtain a better life, to attain a superior position. And for this we are struggling very hard, but we do not know what a superior position actually is. So Srila Prabhupada explains that in the next paragraph. Whatever position we have in the material world must be given up. We may have a good position or a bad position. In any case, we cannot remain here. We may earn millions of dollars and think, now I'm in a good position. But a little dysentery or cholera will finish our position. If the bank fails, our position is gone. So actually, there is no position in this material world. It is a farce. Those who try to attain a better position in the material world are ultimately defeated because there is no better position. So what Srila Prabhupada is saying here, whatever we strive for in this material world, it will end soon. That, like, I've been a chartered accountant, that of course I stopped it at a certain time when I came to devotional service, but I may be, now I'm retired, that you are retired, no profession anymore. So before you had a profession, but then suddenly it's finished. You don't have the position anymore. Your position changes. Even in this life, it's like that. And that whatever we try to obtain in this world, it's very temporary. It doesn't make sense factually. And that's a lesson we have to learn. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, one who lives for the pleasure of the senses of the body, he lives in vain for nothing. He does not know what is a superior position. The superior position is self-realization, where we realize who we are. And then if we realize who we are, a spirit soul, a part and parcel of Krishna, then the question is, what is our wealth? And how to obtain that wealth? What is the wealth of the soul? The wealth of the soul is bhakti, the unalloyed devotional service. And this is what Srila Prabhupada explains here, that the Bhagavad Gita 14:26 says that a better position is Mam Syao Vyabhicharana Bhaktiyorna Sevate Sagunan Samatichetam Brahma Bhuyaya Kalapate. So when we engage in spiritual activities of unalloyed devotional service, at once transcends the modes of material nature and is elevated to the spiritual platform. So how to engage in unalloyed devotional service? That first we must know what is unalloyed devotional service. What's the goal? Otherwise, that's called in technical terms in the Vedanta Sutra, the prayojan. What is the goal of our lives? Prabhupada many quotes this verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam, teachings of Prahlad Maharaj. Prahlad Maharaj saying that Nate vitus vartagatimi vishnum drasye bar artha maninam yatayat anderopaniyamas tepisnantram udamni bada. This verse from the 7th canto, Prahlad Maharaj said that most people, they don't know what the goal is of life. And many blind leaders lead other blind leaders, and they fall into a ditch. And they suffer like anything. And that's the reality. That in the modern education, there is an undertone in everything we do. And that is that you are the body, and you must make sure that you have the best possible enjoyment for the body in this life. That the profit is everything. Nobody will get a job. Nobody will get a job without getting a salary. They want the profit. And what is the profit for? It's just for the body, a lump of matter, or for the pleasure of the mind, that all temporary pleasures, we can go out every moment here. But we are a spirit soul, we are Satchitananda. We don't belong to this world. This is a prison house. Our real home is a spiritual world, where we have an eternal life of Ananda, bliss every moment. But here we experience the opposite. But if one does not know the goal, Nate vitus vartagatimi Vishnu, then what do people do? Prahlad said in the previous verse, Materna Krishna Partos Vatava Mito Bibatyeti Hyavatana Manandro Pervishotam Tamisham Punas Punas Sarvato Sarvananam. He says to his father, Hiranyakasipu, that your inclination for Krishna consciousness will never take place, not on your own endeavor, not by instructions of others. You will never accept it, because your goal of life is sense gratification. And what are you doing? Anandra Vishatam Tamishram. You are going after this sense gratification because your senses are uncontrolled and your mind is uncontrolled. And there, Punaspara Sarvata Sarvananam, you are doing always the same stereotype activities. And that is what people do. They get up in the morning. If they are a little pious, they take a shower. Most people don't do that. And then they offer food to the body, and clothes and food to the body. That is their deity, their worshipful deity, their body. But that is sheer ignorance. that means they are not better than the animals. The animal is identifying itself with the body. It cannot do otherwise. But if a human being with higher intelligence does the same, is he better than an animal? That's the question that Prabhupada brings here. That I continue reading. Is there any science that gives us the knowledge by which we may become immortal? Yes, we may become immortal, but not in a material sense. We cannot receive this knowledge in so-called universities. However, there is knowledge contained in the Vedic scriptures by which we may become immortal. Immortality is our better position. No more birth, no more death, no more old age, no more disease. Thus the Guru takes on a very great responsibility. He must guide his disciple and enable him to become an eligible candidate for the perfect position of immortality. The Guru must be competent to lead his disciple back home, back to Godhead. So this is a very important aspect here. That so, is there any science that gives us knowledge by which we may become immortal? The question arises: who are we? We are a spirit soul. We are de facto immortal. We are immortal, but we identify with a body, which is temporary. And that's due to ignorance, due to contamination of our consciousness with the mode of passion and ignorance. We identify with the body. Therefore, first we must come to goodness, understand our real position. And that's explained in the Vedic literature. So that immortality is our better position. Factually, we are immortal, but we are in the cycle of birth and death, and we need to stop that. That an intelligent person thinks, how am I going to stop this? Many may say, I don't believe in a previous life, but then there are a few things you need to explain. That's why are bad things happen to good people? That's a question in theology. Why are the positions completely different of these in the material world? And that a philosopher said, if God exists and he allows that, he must be a monster. But they don't understand. They don't understand that this life is a reaction of previous life. And that's the only way to explain what's happening. Someone has great talents in this life means they cultivated that in previous lives. Nothing happens without by chance. That's not possible. Everything has an exact reason. We get exact reactions that we get. So that's the duty of the Guru to explain this. Now we continue that His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhakta Swami, the foremost exponent of Krishna consciousness in this age, is the main goal for the modern Hare Krishna movement. It is by His mercy that we are attempting to engage in devotional service. And that's applicable to all of us, that we are educated in this movement by Prabhupada's books. Prabhupada's books, his instructions are His mercy. So he is, through Prabhupada, we get all the mercy. Okay, good. We can go to the next chapter. Next chapter is the Vedic scriptures. that okay, we'll start reading. The Vedic scriptures are the spiritual literature of the ancient Indian culture. They consist of a huge collection of books written in the Sanskrit language that includes material, mundane religions, which is ritualistic, and spiritual knowledge. The word Vedic is derived from the Sanskrit word Veda, means knowledge or revelation. According to Vedic history, these scriptures were written down about 5,000 years ago. Most of them were written by Srila Vyasadeva, who is considered an incarnation of Lord Krishna, just for the purpose of writing this Vedic literature. This date is not accepted in modern Indology, but the date is in fact very important because the knowledge in the scriptures existed long before it was written down. So the point is that Vedic knowledge before was orally transmitted verbally and was memorized. That people in previous ages had greater capacity for memorization. We lose this capacity due to engagement in sinful activities. That if you take alcohol, if you eat meat, that and so on, then you are transgressing the principles of religions explained in the Vedas, which are mercy, which are austerity, truthfulness, and cleanliness. If you go against it, then you cannot understand spiritual knowledge. It's not possible. We can memorize something when we can concentrate on something. And to concentrate on something, we need the mind. That Prabhupada explains in the last verse of the chapter 3 of the first canto of the Bhagavatam, that he says that to hear with attention, that one needs purity in mind. Purity in mind comes from purity in mind comes from following the religious principles. If one transgresses these principles and breaks the four relative principles, you cannot concentrate because lust comes in your mind. And lust means you become absorbed in the duality of attachment and aversion. That gives me pleasure, I want that. That gives me pain, I don't want that. And the mind cannot focus. It becomes bewildered. If one takes intoxication, then one's sense for discrimination is gone. It's not possible to hear with attention. And Prabhupada said to hear with attention, you must be pure in mind, and to be pure in mind, you must be pure in habits. Pure in habits, follow the four relative principles. So that's going together, and that to hear with attention. So people before they could hear and remember. So that is the position of a Brahman. A pure Brahman, he has a very good memory because of a pure lifestyle. During the British Raj in India, there was once a fight between two British citizens in India. And after the fight, they had to come before the court. And before the fight, there was a verbal exchange in English. And the judge was asking, was there any witness of what happened? And they said, yes, this Indian gentleman, this Indian Brahmin, he was a witness. And this Brahmin was asked to come before the court. And the judge was asking, did you hear he asking in Hindi or Bengali, I don't know, did you hear the conversation? I said, yes, I heard the conversation. It was in English, I could not understand it. And the judge was asking, yes, then you cannot help. And the Brahmin said, yes, but I remember everything what they said. And he repeated the conversation ad verbum without understanding English. Everything the words that they said. That's amazing. So that's pure Brahman. If one follows from birth brahmachari principles, you will have a good memory. Memory means exercising that memory. But before, especially in Satya Yuga, people were pure. And they could remember that once heard, remembering for lifetime. Also, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj was like that. He would hear one thing one time and he could repeat it. That for his lifetime he got it. But in Kali Yuga, no one remembers anything. We can even not remember what we did yesterday. At a certain time, we have to think, what did I do? But they were pure. So, but at a certain moment when these spies came in and people lost their capacity for remembering, they developed at that moment the Devanagari script that we know today, also in Hindi, the Devanagari script that was developed later by humans. That way of writing, and yes, then because Srila Vyasadeva could see the people of this age, their memory goes back and so on. Therefore, he started to write down the Vedas. He spoke the Vedas, and Ganesh was writing that like. He spoke also the Mahabharata. So the Veda is understood by simply accepting what the Veda says about itself. The Vedic self-understanding may be amazing or even unbelievable to the modern reader, but the different opinions about the origin and the history of the Vedic scripture are due to fundamental difference in worldviews between the followers of the Veda and modern mundane scholars. According to the Indological worldviews, Vedic scriptures doesn't even exist. Modern Indology says that the collection of books mentioned in this article is not a consistent body of knowledge, but a mere accumulation of text from different sources. Indology claims that they were written over a long period starting after the hypothetical Aryan invasion to Indian subcontinent about 1000 to 1500 BC, when the mixture of tribes formed a Vedic culture. If we believe this scenario, then it is natural to think that the Indian scriptures are a mass of unsystematic mythological text. But the Vedic scriptures maintain a completely different version, one of the ancient cultures, timeless revelations, and divine incarnations. The entire body of Vedic knowledge has a systematic structure and a clearly defined goal, being compiled by Vedic rishis, sages, headed by Srila Vyasadeva, the literary incarnation of Lord Krishna. About 5,000 years ago, these sages systematically wrote down this knowledge to prevent it from being lost in the upcoming Kali Yuga, the Iron Age of quarrel and hypocrisy, the most fallen in the Vedic ages. The structure of the Vedic scriptures can be compared to a staircase with many steps with specific scriptures corresponding to each step. The Vedic scripture describes both the goal and steps leading up to this goal. They are non-sectarian because they respect people of all steps, encouraging everyone to progress to the next steps. There's no converting or pushing because everyone has to walk for himself. As the Vedic saying goes, even a flock of birds, each bird has to fly for itself. Individual evolution is not limited to one life. The Vedic understanding of reincarnation declares that the steps of the symbolical staircase can also be understood as lifetimes. The most proverbial Hindu tolerance is based on a solid philosophical understanding and shouldn't be confused with merging, indifference, or everything is one. Superficially, the Vedic scriptures may appear to be unsystematic and even contradictory, but this impression can easily be reconciled by finding out how each step is connected. Now we will go to get an overview of all this Vedic literature. The first is the four Vedas. We have the Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, Sama Veda, Atharva Veda. So these are called the Vedic hymns, the original text of the Vedas, the Vedic hymns. And what does the Vedic hymns explain? That the Vedic hymns that explains that everything is meant for Jahya, for Lord Vishnu. That's also mentioned in Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita is a summary of all the knowledge, all the Vedic knowledge. That in 3.9 Bhagavad Gita says Shakhnarta Karmanoyatra Lokoyam Karma Bandhanaha. Just the purpose of the Vedas is performing Jahya, sacrifice to please Lord Vishnu. That is the purpose of the Vedas. That then in these four Vedas it explained Vishnu is supreme. That, but the Vedas also contain prayers to the demigods, who are considered limbs of Lord Vishnu. That's it's like, what are the demigods? Why in the Vedas it's described that we must make offering to the demigods. The demigods are like priests who then they are offering. If we offer them something, then on our behalf they are offering everything to Lord Vishnu. They are an intermediate for the offering to Lord Vishnu. And that is how we must see the demigods as servants of Lord Vishnu. We see sometimes also the residents of Vrindavan, they make offering to demigods, but it's with the understanding the demigods are offering or transmitting their offering to Lord Vishnu. So they understand Lord Vishnu, Krishna is supreme. that also Lord Vishnu is sometimes called Narayan, that is supreme, that and the demigods are only servants, intermediates, who are like priests accepting our offerings and giving it to the Lord Vishnu. If residents of Vrindavan worship the demigods, they are asking the demigods, please give this, offer this is an offer for Lord Vishnu. So that's quite different. And that, so known, you have the Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, Sama Veda, Atharva Veda. So these are 4 Vedas. Each Veda is different books, but each of these Vedas has 4 categories. The first is called the Samhita. Samhita means original text. But these Vedas, to pronounce these Vedas correctly, because it was very important in the Vedic times, great Yagyas were done and these Vedas were pronounced. These Vedas had to pronounce correctly to get the right effect. So how to pronounce this correctly, that's explained in the second book of each Veda. So the first is the Samhita, the second is the Brahmanas. The Brahmanas has nothing to do with Brahmins. The Brahmanas here means that it's the same text of the Vedic hymn, but there are connotations, explanations how to pronounce it correctly. It's a guide of pronunciation. That's the Brahmanas. And the third part of each of the Vedas is called Aranyaka. Aranya means forest, because this is a description of for each Veda how to perform the Vedic Jagya, the sacrifice. And they held before in Vedic times. In Vedic times, they have in Vedic times. Sorry, I lost a bit. I was explaining the third part, Aranyaka. In the Vedic times, these Vedic offerings were offered to big yagyas in the forest. It has to do in the forest, otherwise it was dangerous. There was called Aranyaka. And this Aranyaka, this third part of each Veda, explains how to do each offering, and it contains all the practical things of the Jagya. It explains what one has to do, one thing after another, to do the Vedic Jagya. Like we know at initiation we have a fire Jagya, and it has different components. In the beginning, in the beginning, you must do a puja for the spiritual master, and then purify the Jagya kund, make certain signs in it, make a mandala with a lotus flower in it, and put fruits around, and then you have to before starting the Jagya, you have prayers, and then you have to lit fire and invite Agni with prayers, because Lord Vishnu will appear in the fire, and then the invitation of the Lord into the fire, and then one offers puja to the fire with different items and flowers and so on. And then, but this Aranyaka scriptures explains which ladle which spoons to use, and what all these utensils are described, and what kind of ghee, how to prepare the ghee, how to prepare the Jahyakund. That's a whole science, and that is explained in the Aranyaka. That you have that's the third part of each Veda. You have Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, Sam Veda, Atharva. So the first part was the hymn, the Samhita. The second part of the Vedas is the Brahmanas, how to pronounce it. The third part is Aranyaka. All the explanations how to do the Jahya for this specific Veda, and you have a fourth part, and the fourth part is called Upanishad. We know the Sheyas Upanishad. Sheyas Upanishad is one of the Upanishads related to the Yajur Veda. So every Veda has its Upanishads. There are more than 108 Upanishads. And there are 12 which are more important, and Srila Prabhupada mentions them in Chaitanya Charitamrita, these 12 important. And Prabhupada quotes many times, also in Bhagavad Gita, to these Upanishads. You have the Katha Upanishad. Yeah, you have many other Upanishads Prabhupada mentions. Of course, the Sri Upanishad, you have the Ketu Upanishad, you have the so many others, Svetasvatar Upanishad, that so many, and Prabhupada quotes them all, and many also in Bhagavad Gita. And so for each Vedas you have these Upanishads. And that is what is Upanishad? It is the spiritual knowledge related to the Vedas, the spiritual knowledge. And the essence of all these Upanishads of the Vedas is mentioned in one book, Gita Upanishad. Gita Upanishad is another name of Bhagavad Gita. So the Bhagavad Gita is the summary of all the transcendental knowledge of the Vedas. And we can see that in verse, in Bhagavad Gita, in the second chapter, verse 20, in the purport, there Prabhupada quotes a verse, because you have 220 of Bhagavad Gita. I try to get it on the screen, that Bhagavad, database, online database. Do you see it on the screen, Veda, that I'm starting? Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, I think it's text 20 or 21. Yeah, it's 20. You see it on the screen? The verse 20. Najayate mitchave va katachin, nayambutva bhavidavana bhuyaha, ayonitya sasvato yam purano, na anyate anyamani sarire. For the soul there is neither birth nor death at any time. He has not come into being, does not come into being, and will not come into being, is unborn, eternal, ever-existing, and the primeval, is not slain when the body is slain. So you see this verse that starts with Najayate Mrityaveva Kadachin, that and in the purport, Srila Prabhupada quotes a verse from the Katha Upanishad. It's on the screen. And it starts also with Najayate Mrichaveva Vipachin. Nayam Kutachin na Babu Dakachit Ayonitya Sastoyam Parano Nahanyate Anyamani Nahanyate Hanyamani Sarire. It's practically the same Sanskrit. So that shows the relation between the Upanishads and Bhagavad Gita. Therefore, Bhagavad Gita, Gita Upanishad, is the essence of all spiritual knowledge. So these are other quotes, but also Svetasvatara Upanishad, Prabhupada, and the Bharat, I forgot the name, but all these 11, 12 main Upanishads, Prabhupada quotes from them in his books. Of course, Bhagavad Gita is the essence. So I repeat, for this 4 Vedas, the purpose of the 4 Vedas is to perform jagya, sacrifice for Lord Vishnu. And we find in the Bhagavatam also great jagyas performed, and the purpose is to please Lord Vishnu. That's the purpose of every jagya. And Brahma and Shiva get also a share of the offerings, but first to Lord Vishnu, then it becomes prasad. So that's the purpose of the Vedas. And you have these 4 parts: the Vedic hymns, you have the Brahmanas, how to pronounce it. The 3rd point was how to perform the sacrifice, all the technical details of that. And the 4th is the transcendental knowledge. So you have for each Upanishad, you have different, because there are different Upanishads connected with one Veda, but an Upanishad is always connected with a Veda. It's not without connection. It's the transcendental knowledge behind the Vedas. So it said here, Rich means ritual, and this Veda contains mainly hymns and prayers for the worship of the universal forces known as demigods. Yes, it's going to the demigods, but like I said, the demigods offer it to Lord Vishnu. It's not appropriate to offer, to make offerings to the demigods for material purposes. That's condemned. That we are making offerings to the demigods to please Lord Vishnu. That's all, out of love, bhakti. That's the. But of course, a devotee, he does not go to the demigods. He goes to the medium of the spiritual master and offer it to Krishna directly through the spiritual master. But she's also going to the spiritual master, to an intermediate. The entire body of Vedic knowledge has a systematic structure and clearly defined goal. So I try to explain that. Being compiled by Vedic rishis, headed by Vyasadeva, the literally incarnation of Lord Krishna. After 5,000 years ago, these sages systematically wrote down this knowledge to prevent it from being lost. So Srila Vyasadeva, he wrote the main literature, but also this knowledge was compiled by different sages and written down, because they were concerned Kali Yuga is coming, people will lose their memory, and their capacity to memorize all the Vedas is not there. So we give them, we divide it in parts. And this, and because also the sages, they were losing power. And therefore, Vyasadeva has divided all this knowledge on different Vedas. So certain Vedas, so each sage is seeing the Vedas to his part of knowledge. And that creates sometimes conflict between the sages, because they saw only their part of the knowledge. Anyway, because to prevent it from being lost in the upcoming Kali Yuga, the Iron Age of quarrel and hypocrisy, the most fallen in the cycle of ages. So they started to write it down before it was not written down. So this Devanagari is quite a recent development in writing that was not existing before. It started 3,000-4,000 years ago, this Devanagari, it developed, and that up to 5,000 years ago. So the structure of the Vedic scripture can be compared to a staircase with many steps, with specific scriptures corresponding to each step. The Vedic scripture describe both the goal and the steps leading up to this goal. They are a non-sectarian because they respect people of all steps, encouraging everyone to progress to the next step. There is no converting of pushing because everyone has to walk for himself. And the Vedic and the Vedic saying goes, even in a flock of birds, each bird had to fly for himself. So that is important to understand. Also, Krishna in Bhagavad Gita is concerned with all kinds of transcendentalists. You have different kinds of transcendentalists. It is said in the Bhagavatam, Vedanta tattva vidas tattvam jnanam apyayam prameti paramatmeti bhagavan iti sapyate. That the absolute truth has three levels. Brahman, Krishna's spiritual energy, which we are also part of Brahman. That Paramatma means realization of his all-pervading aspect. And then Bhagavan, which is the source of Paramatma and Brahman. So those who go for Brahman realizations are called jnanis. And they have their own process. And those who accept the absolute truth as all-pervading are the yogis. That they have Astanga Yoga and so on. And those who accept the absolute truth as the Supreme Personality of God are called devotees, and they cultivate bhakti. But all three are transcendentalists, but only the devotees are realizing the absolute truth in its completeness. That you must perform bhakti to become self-realized and go back to the spiritual world. The other processes will not bring you to that. But not everyone is accepting Krishna. Not everyone is accepting Paramatma. There are monists. They don't accept. They think the soul and Paramatma is one. So we are God. That's on the level of Brahman. And Krishna is concerned with all of them. He said, okay, you don't want to accept me, you accept everything else as spiritual energy, but at least you will make spiritual advancement. And go to the ladder of yoga. Ladder of yoga, karma yoga, jnana yoga, astanga yoga, bhakti yoga. And it goes many lifetimes, but gradually Krishna says, Bhaunam Jnanam Jnanam Prapachanti Vasdev Sarvamiti Samatma Sudulabha. After many, many births, such a jnani who wants to merge with Brahman realizes that factually Vasudev, Krishna is everything, and then they become devotees. But many, many lifetimes. But Krishna is concerned with all of them. And they said, okay, you don't believe in Bhagavan, you think everything is Brahman. Here are your scriptures to make advancement in that discipline. It gives them also the occasion to advance in that discipline. Otherwise, he could have made the Bhagavad Gita very short. That all these yogas not needed, go directly to Bhakti Yoga, to the last chapter, and that's it. Very short Bhagavad Gita. But it's concerned with everyone. And also the Vedas are concerned with everyone on his level, and they respect their level. And that is to be understood. This is Krishna's compassion. And it said, yeah, making spiritual advancement, nobody can do it for us. We have to fly our own airplane. Once you are in the air, you are going to reach the destination. You cannot go back. You have to fly alone. Nobody from the land can help you. So therefore it is said individual evolution is not limited to one life. It goes many lifetimes usually. But when you become a devotee, it is said in the scriptures that a devotee who chants the holy name has already done in previous life all the austerities, study of the Vedas, and all sacrifices. That's the advanced stage. When you become a devotee, it's understood. In previous lives, you have done all these things. So, of course, the devotee asked Prabhupada, did we really do that in our previous life? And Prabhupada said, don't worry about it, I did it for you. So that's the mercy of Prabhupada. Prabhupada can elevate one immediately to the higher position of Bhakti Yoga just by his wish. That's the power given to him by the power given to a pure devotee. So the Vedic understanding of reincarnation declares that the steps of this symbolic staircase can also be understood as lifetimes. Almost proverbial Hindu tolerance is based on a solid philosophical understanding and should not be confused with merging, indifference, or everything is one. No. Superficially, the Vedic scriptures may appear even contradictory, but this impression can easily be reconciled by finding out how each step is connected with the goal. Because that we spoke about the 4 Vedas, we have also tantric scriptures in the Vedas. It is, this is for creatures in the lower modes of nature. That it has to do with black magic, ghost worship. So anyway, the Vedas are also concerned with them, that at a certain time they may give it up and go to a higher level. Upanishads that we have discussed, also the Aranyakas, the Brahmanas. Vedanta Sutra. The Vedanta Sutra is a summary of all the Vedic knowledge in aphorism. Aphorism are very cryptic, very short, like the first aphorism say Atato Brahma Jihnas. Atato, now you have the human form. It's time to inquire about Brahman. Another aphorism is Aham Brahmasi, you are Brahman, you are spirit. But to understand that the first aphorism is Janmadayasya. Everything comes from the absolute truth. But it requires an explanation written, which the book that explains Vedanta Sutra is the Bhagavatam. The first aphorism of Vedanta Sutra is Janmadhyasya. Everything comes from the absolute truth. And the first verse of Bhagavad Gita is Janmadhyasya yatam vayati taratasya tisabhya svarate ne brahmaridaya artikavye mayantyat suryaha. This explains what the absolute truth is. The first verse of the Bhagavatam, that it describes Krishna. Janmadhyasya yatam vayat itaratasya tisabhya svarat. The absolute truth is completely independent, Svarat, independent, full of knowledge, and this knowledge was given to the heart of Brahma in the beginning of creation. So that the Vedanta Sutra requires a commentary, and the commentary is the Bhagavatam. But also the impersonalists, followers of Sankaracharya, they have their own commentaries called the Sariraka Bhasya, I think. Yeah, it's impersonal interpretation and which is of course wrong, but they have their own school of interpretation. So every tradition must have a commentary on the Vedanta Sutra, or is not recognized as a bona fide tradition. So these Vedanta Sutras are important. The Itihasas, we know it's the Ramayana and the Mahabharata. This is for those who are not so inclined of Vedic study. They can hear stories and learn also the principles of spiritual life. And then you have Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam is explained here. The goal of Bhagavad Gita is Vedasa Sarva Ameva Vidya, is to know Krishna. That's the purpose of the Vedic literature also. Vedanta Ket Vedavite Vasam. So Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, the purpose of Bhagavad Gita is to know me. I'm the knower of the Vedas. And I'm the compiler of the Vedas through Srila Vyasadeva. So that was an overview, a quick overview of the Vedic literature. That I did not read everything, but I explained most of the things. Do you have any questions, please?
Thank you, Maharaj, for explaining this, and lot I have learned today, especially what is Riga, what is Yajur, and I really like when you said wealth of the soul is bhakti. Just one statement says it all. Just wanted to thank you for sharing this incredible knowledge. Thank you.
This is the Vedas. Much more to say about this, that at the university, I followed the course Vedas and Upanishads, and many things are explained there also. Of course, you have to look at it from the Vaishnava tradition, but amazing things with examples of all these Upanishads, that the Upanishads are very interesting. They are very puzzling difficult to understand. It's for those who like mental speculation, but based on the scriptures, philosophical speculation, and that they are called enigmatic, difficult to grasp. That especially when you study Sri Upanishad, you understand this. Like there's a verse, 3 verses, and it explained vidya and avidya, but it gives the definition of vidya and avidya, but in each verse it gives a different explanation, a different perspective. That and it's amazing when you study Sri Upanishad, you will find that it's puzzling, but Prabhupada's purpose makes it very clear. That anything else? Then I think next week we will start with chapter 15, education through spiritual literature, preaching and book distribution. That's for next week. Good. Thank you very much. Then
Thank you, Maharaj.
Yeah.
Thank you, Maharaj.
If there are no other questions, then we see next week. I will be back in D-land next week, Wednesday, so will be no problem. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.